Hey, Nathan here. Welcome to a C# video. In this video, I'm going to discuss Linq, which is a feature of the language. It's not specific to monogame or XNA. It's specific to C#. So if you're an ASP.NET developer or just a C# Windows application developer, this will benefit you as well. But my example, I'm going to use game logic for that. So this tutorial will discuss Linq, specifically Linq to objects. I'm not going to discuss Linq to SQL or Linq to XML in this video. So Linq to objects is a way to break down a list based on certain criteria. And let me go ahead and create a new class here. Let's go to add new class. Now I'm going to call this, let's call this just a game element. Alright, so I'm going to have a public class game element. Now I'm going to have a public string name. I'm going to name my elements. It's going to be get and private set. Now I'm going to have a public double, and this will be used in the next video too. I'm going to have double for health. Get and private set. Alright, now I'm going to generate a constructor that will take those two for parameters and will assign them. So I create a game element by giving it a name and a health value. Alright, so that's game element. Now in here, at the very end, I'm going to do console.read key, so it'll not close the application when it's done. Now above that, I'm going to create a few game elements. So I'm going to do list game element. Elements is equal to new list. Okay. So I'm going to add new game element. I'm going to call this Joe. And he's going to have 128 health. Alright, elements.add new element, game element. And I'm going to call this Steve. And he's going to have 248 health. Elements.add new game element. Alright, so Joe, Steve, Sarah. And she's going to have 143 health. And I'm just going to add a few more. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it and then resume. Okay, so I added a few more, and I even added a couple that had decimal values. Okay, let's say that you want to run a report, or in your game you have some ability or something that runs, and if they're below 100 health, it will update all those objects. So we just need to get all the game elements that are below 100 health. So you could do for each game element in elements, and then if element.health is less than 100, you can do, let's just add some update method in here that won't really do anything. Public void update, just for demonstration purposes. Okay. So if the element.health is less than 100, we could do element.update. So you can certainly do it that way. Now, what if you're building a API, or if you're building a whole list of classes with inheritance in mind, and you want to send that list of only 2 people in this example, and only those 2 people will be in a new list, and then you can do whatever you want with that list. this is where you can use Linq, and this is just one of many examples. So elements dot, I'm going to use where. So where is something that we can limit, we can filter this list down by whatever we choose. So where e equals greater than, so that each iteration of our elements list, for each item we are using a e value here. We're generating a predicate here. So e is where we say e is a game element and it's part of our predicate. So we need to check to see, we need to do a Boolean result here. So e.health is less than 100. So then we can get rid of this here. Alright, so this is a predicate, and we're assigning the value, we're assigning an entity, and we're calling it E here. And internally in this predicate, we can reference, we can do e.health, we can get e.name, we can filter all the names by Joe or all the names that start with J. We can do all sorts of things. So here it's going to limit our elements list where entities.health is less than 100. So actually, let's not update this. Let's do console.writeLine, and then let's do the name of the entity and then the health with a dash in between. Element.name and then element.health. Okay, so now let's press F5 and let's run this. So we should only have two results. Nathan and Melissa. They're below 100 health. So similarly, what we want here is a Boolean result. This is a Boolean result. So we can say if it's greater than 100 and less than 200. So greater than 100 and e.health is less than 200. And if we press F5, now we have Joe, Sarah, and Jane. And we can do, if the names start with J, so e.name dot starts with J. Now if we press F5 and run this, Joe and Jane. Now if you're going to send this off, if you're building an API, there's two ways you could do this. Let's copy this and let's actually cut that and let's paste it above here. So I'm going to use var here. Filtered elements. And then two closing parentheses there. Okay. So let's do that and let's specify type. So IEnumerable here. So this returns an IEnumerable. So let me get rid of that. And I'm using var here because right now that's going to be IEnumerable. Now if you're building an API or if you're building something that you want to send this list to somebody else, you might want to convert it to a list. And that way they can iterate over it multiple times without having a issue doing that over an IEnumerable. It's a list. They can do whatever they want with it. They can add to it. They can remove to it. They can do whatever they want. It's a brand new list. And then they can do whatever they want. Oop, element in filtered elements. There we go. So the same result. Joe and Jane. So that is what Linq does. We can filter out a list based on where. We can also, let's say if we want to get rid of this, let's get a game element. And let's call it element is equal to, and let's say element dot first or default. So this will select one entity based on a predicate. If one doesn't exist, it will use the default value. In this case, this is going to be an object, so the default would be null. So first or default. Again, predicate, I'm assigning it to E equals greater than, then I can manipulate based on E. So I want to select first or default. Let's say if our name dot starts with J, so that goes back to Joe or Jane, and E dot health is less than 100. Okay, so that's going to select a first or default. Console.WriteLine. First one will be name, second one will be health. Element.name, element.health. And ReSharper is telling me that this is a possible null reference exception because first or default. Again, this is going to be an object, so default for an object will be null. So let's put that if element does not equal to null. And this will be part of my next video. I was going to put it in this one, but I will not do that. Okay, so if element does not equal to null, it will display this. Otherwise, console.WriteLine, no entity satisfies the condition. Okay, so now let's run this. Oh, no entity satisfies the condition. So no entity starts with J and has health less than 100. Let's modify Joe and set it up as 99. There we go, Joe 99. So that returned only one object. If it did not find anything, it assigned it to the default value. In this case, since this is a class, it's going to be an object, so the default value of an object will be null. So this is just a quick overview of Linq. Let me bring up my PGL2D library, which is still being worked on. Still not even in alpha. Okay, so I made a base class called Controllable Game Entity. And one of the things that it will do is process input. And it has an input map, and it has keybinds for that input. Now I check to see where k.inputs.count, and if it is not released, then it will add that to the list. So I'm filtering this out based on available keybinds, and it will call that. So you get a list of keybinds that were actually pressed. That way you don't have to work around that if you derive this class. There's a few more here. The base screen. The game screens have a update entity and then an update screen. Now the update screen will provide you with the ability to loop through entities that are able to be updated, which means they are not frozen. That takes care of things for you, and I always put it to a list. That way you can do whatever you want to it. It's not going to be IEnumerable. You're not going to have multiple iterations of that. You don't have to worry about doing that yourself. It's just going to send it to you as a list, and it's going to filter it out based on all entities that are not frozen. And then that way you only get a list of entities that you can update. So I hope you enjoyed this video. The next video I want to discuss, actually the next two videos, I want to discuss two new features of C# 6 that I really enjoy. And you saw me do that on the Monogame Advanced introduction video. It was one of the features. So I hope to see you next time.